Welcome to tonight's live chat. We're going to talk about some things going on in September. I'm going to talk a little bit about the conference. I'm going to leave a link in the top comment of this video if you'd like more information on the conference. And if you have any beekeeping questions, just start leaving them below and we will start taking those. All right, got our first thumbs up. I haven't seen any comments yet. There we go. Hey, Nuts and Bolts Beekeeping, that's what we're all about. So I hope you all have had a nice 3-day weekend for those of you who get that. Laurel's been working me to death, I'm telling you what. No vacation. What is your high temp range for Apigard? You'll have to double check on what they say it is. However, if it's well over 90 degrees, that's when we start using a 33 milliliter ml. Let me look real quick. So I've got one of the syringes right here that we use. I always have a few extra lying around. But we've had a nice cool spell, so that has been really handy to be able to get these treatments on. I actually just filmed a video, which I'll be releasing soon, on using Apigard. Yeah, so we only use up to here when it's like 90 degrees or above, and we'll use 50 on this one if it's below 90 degrees. And I really prefer it when we can do the 50, but typically we can't. And I think what we're going to find out as we are collecting all this data from the experimental yard, we are going to see what I think has been confirmed by myself with the Apigard test, that it is a good product, but it's not perfect by itself. And because of that, we use multiple treatments a year. And it seems that most beekeepers I know who are successful on a consistent basis in the South are doing multiple treatments throughout the year or split their bees a lot. Both of them make a big difference. All right, let's get to some of these questions. But you know, there's a lot of different ways to do. I use Apigard differently. So they say use the 50 every 2 weeks. One shot, and then 2 weeks later, do it again. I misspoke in the first video. I want to go back and edit that. But I didn't wait near that long when I applied it. I know their other instructions are that smaller dosage 1 week, then the next week, and then the week after. And you can do it up to 6 weeks. So with thymol, I think there's quite a bit of play there. And that means it's a little flexible, but it also means that it's hard to really get to know what you should do and when you should do it. That's where I really think the alcohol washes are so important to determine kind of for your area and how much mites that your bees create every year, what works and what's enough and what's not needed. Hey, Jeff Harden, the test yard is doing excellent right now. We are counting a lot of mites, counting a lot of bees, not too awful many mites, and trying to find time to piece all of it together into a really nice video. Let's see here. I missed. Hey, Kamon, from your test yard, what treatment is doing the best? Well, we are actually waiting to do the alcohol wash after the treatment. So we've got the alcohol washes prior, but I don't have all the data. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, you saw the picture. We were counting the bees and we counted the mites. We have to do that with 52 colonies with the experimental yard. Spoiler alert, I believe it's 4 or maybe it's 5 colonies that were not able to make it to the testing. Either they went queenless on us or swarmed at some point in the year, and just they're dud colonies. So that's to be expected. That's very normal for me with any yard that I run. But still, we have plenty of colonies to test. I haven't got to the point yet. We should know within probably the next couple weeks which one did the best. And I wouldn't be surprised if none of them do exactly what I want them to do. Justin, do you use more than the recommended dosage for oxalic acid? I assume that's in vapor form, and yes, I have been doing that for a while now. Now it's legal to do so. The original recommendation of 1 gram per brood box wasn't really good enough, and still it's very weak when there's a lot of brood into the colony. But during winter time, if I'm going to take the time to get out there to a yard of 40 colonies, we would get a little heavy-handed, and it never seemed to hurt the bees, and it really knocked down the mites. All right, all right. Roll Tide, Don. Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm so glad college football is back. I really needed some college football in my life, and this cool weather has really made me long for fall to get here quick. July and August, worst months of the year. All right, so Jeremy asks, I caught a swarm and found the queen inside a ball of bees who were clearly trying to kill her. Now she is dead and they are queenless. Why would they do that? Well, it could be, Jeremy, that there was a queen that went on out on a mating flight, something like that. Maybe she had a small swarm of bees go with her. I don't know all the reasons, but I think in many cases where you see the balling of a queen like that, either one, she's been kicked out of a hive and was able to escape from the bees before they ripped her limb from limb and maybe flew a short distance, and then other bees from other colonies got onto her and started killing her. That's probably it. I've never seen a swarm actually kill their own queen. So if they swarmed with her, I've never seen that happen before. Not saying that it can't happen, but I'm pretty sure it's probably one that was kicked out from another colony, and either some followed her out there. I don't know. But either way, we get small swarms this time of the year, and they're just usually not worth anything. Best thing to do is treat them with oxalic acid if they're any size and you want to catch them, and paper combine them to a good colony and just make that strong colony even better. All right. Hey, Melissa's Harvest, thank you so much for donating to our channel. My husband and I got tickets to the Hive Life Conference, excited to meet everyone and share the experience. Well, we're excited to see you there. We are working on quite a bit right now. It is, it's insane. We're so excited, though, because so many people have decided to come on out. We're going to be able to do so much more. We have more time to plan, more time to network. I was actually talking to Bob. Was that this morning? No, I think that was yesterday midday. Yes, it was yesterday midday about the honey show that we're working on, trying to get some of his opinions and ideas. And Rick Sutton, who has won many competitions and is judged. He's also a good professional beekeeper who will be speaking at the conference. So we're going to have that and many, many other things. New idea. How about placing an Aprivar strip on the actual Langstroth hive entrance? So as soon as the girls and boys land before they go in, they'll get hit on the strip. They'll get the strip, touched by the strip, and hopefully that'll kill mites. I have heard this idea a lot, actually, and I don't know if it's actually been tested. Maybe someone can correct me on that. The problem with Aprivar is, as far as being used in that way, is that the worker bees have the lowest percentage of varroa mites, and they're going to go in there and they're going to deposit whatever they have, if anything, and then they're going to head back on out. You really want that as close to the nurse bees and the brood as possible. You're just going to get a much better chance of getting anything hit. If you want to get the forager bees and get everything on the forager bees, just do an oxalic acid vapor treatment. Oxalic acid vapor will cover all of the bees on the foragers, and there is a little bit that come in occasionally, but by and large, the brood area is where the varroa mites are. That's where they want to be. So I seriously doubt. There was a product that came out a while ago. I don't know if it actually ever got to the point where it was being sold in the U.S. Maybe it was sold in another country, the Varroa Gate. And I believe the National Honey Show had a speaker talk on that, but I've never seen anything significant come of that. And it's probably because it did not work very good, because you're not targeting where the mites really are at, and that's the brood area. Did you see where we may be able to use oxalic in water to feed bees? I have not seen that at all. And it makes me a little skeptical because one of the things with oxalic acid dribble, in my experience using it and other people that I know, Randy Oliver has also talked on this, is if they're in a dearth period, you have no nectar at all coming in, and you use a sugar syrup solution with that oxalic acid, they will try to ingest that oxalic acid sugar syrup, and it'll kill mites like crazy. It does a better job, in my opinion, than the oxalic acid vapor. However, it's rougher on the bees by a good margin in that sugar syrup solution because they ingest that, and it really, I think, probably messes up their guts a little bit. It's not good for our gut. It probably destroys maybe some of the microflora, and that's not good at all. Now, I don't know if there's a different delivery with that water, but I would be interested to see any research on that at all. Let's see here. A lot of questions, If I miss yours, just hit me again later with it, and I'll try to get to as many as I can. And for those of you, yeah, I see someone says confirmed for the conference. That's awesome. We're sending another round out. I think we have 60-something% of the people who have sent in their check and registration already emailed back, but there's still 40% that we haven't gotten to. It usually takes us about 10 days from when we receive it to process it and get that email back out. And I apologize, but it's just Laurel and I. I have brought a person on board to help us out a little bit, and we're already working on the 2023 conference where we will be expanding quite a bit in regards to, I believe we're going to have 2 different speakers going at a time. I think that's as much as we'll ever have, but this will give us a little bit more of a chance to get more diversity in there when it comes to the types of speakers. There's some researchers, especially out of Florida, that I would like to have up, talk about oxalic acid and maybe the future of it. Get some researchers in there that are also good beekeepers as well. And there's still some room, though. We got an extremely large venue on purpose. So we would have plenty of room, and if we had to space out, we could still do it. So we're excited. A lot of things in development. There's a lot of things I want to talk about, and some that I will here in a little bit. Yeah, Laurel got him. Let's see. Kamon, is the Hive Life conference full now? We actually reached our goal as of last week. Now, we did leave ourselves a little bit of room, but it is filling up fast. And we just want to make sure that if for whatever reason we have to lower it to half capacity, we have plenty of room. So still for everybody. So there's no worry when it comes to that. But the Hive Life Conference is going to be buzzing. It's going to be one of the biggest conferences in this region of the country, for sure. Hey, Steve Chubb, good to see you on here, and Crusher. Would you recommend the bubble seal top for more southern climates? Hey, Crusher, good question. Laurel and I have been talking about that a lot. So the foamies, as Ian calls them, they have their uses. They're a little annoying to fool with, taking them on and off all the time. It definitely makes the bees more irritable. I think that they're great for wintering, but I don't like fooling with them during the rest of the season. I think basically from winter to April, they're really useful. It's not that they hurt anything in summer. They probably help the colonies a little bit in summer, keep a little bit of that heat off of the lid. But if you're really wanting to insulate the colony, then you might as well get a R5 or R10 foam board and paint that and use that instead. Hey, Craig, a lot of good beekeepers down in Columbia, Tennessee. I'm always excited. We have a lot of beekeepers in that region of Tennessee that seem to be pretty hardcore. So I've always been impressed by that area of the state. Couple crazy people down there too, but All right, where are we at on the questions? Yeah, well, someone said, I find it hard to understand how crazy people are. I think it just goes to show you how miserable people are without honeybees in their life. Really, it's some people. In all seriousness, though, some people are so miserable that they have to get on to whether it's football or whether it's this or anything else. They just have to find a way to annoy people, and that's really sad. They must be so bored. I don't have that kind of time, and my wife won't let me get away with that anymore. So, you know, it's good to be married to a good woman. Let's see. Yeah, I bet if we threw some Apigard on their face, they wouldn't come back. That's for sure. Are there numbers on too much oxalic acid? Sure. And now with the oxalic acid vapor, there hasn't been anything confirmed, but with the oxalic acid dribble, it is recommended that you only use it once per like brood cycle because it does cause a good bit of stress on the bees. If you have a brood break, if I had the choice between oxalic acid vapor or oxalic acid dribble, I would go with the dribble because the dribble is going to give me a better kill. And I would use the glycerin in, as far as having the oxalic acid and glycerin versus having the oxalic acid and sugar syrup because they won't try to ingest the glycerin. It's a little bit more expensive, but I believe it's worth it and probably does much less, um, cause less problems. But that's I've never heard of an overdose with oxalic acid vapor. I'm sure it's possible. However, I like to do 2 grams per deep box. That's what I've been doing for years, and I'll do it twice in December. What's going on, Laurel? She's pointing something out. Oh, Ian's on. Laurel's over here giggling, grinning from ear to ear. People are miserable without honeybees in their life. Choked on my wine. Well, we're hoping you're doing good up there, Ian, and things are constantly improving for you and all that. If you have honeybees in your life, you don't have time for to do drugs or anything like that, or get onto some platform and be an idiot. You just don't have time for it anymore. Bees just take up your life like that. Hey, Brad Murphy from Down Under, good to have you on here. I appreciate it, Steve Chubb, very much. Thanks for being such a big supporter of what we do. I'm bipolar and I don't act like that. Hey, Cayman, how did you make out with all the rain? Hey, thanks for asking, Wheeze Bees. A lot of it went to the west of us, so we did get a good bit. I think we got 3 or so inches, but that's not too bad for our area at all. Our climate is very used to dealing with that much rain, and we've had quite a bit of it this year. But thankfully, it's been spread out. Fall flow looks amazing. As long as it can continue, we're going to be doing great. Let's see. Mm-mm. You can't fix being stupid. Well, my mom disagreed with that, Hope Sadler, and uh, and then my wife's still working on me. I think that's why women are attracted to men. Women are problem solvers. They're fixers, and they look at men as something to fix. And kind of makes a sense. There's a lot to work with. All right. Hooterville honeybees. Spent all day yesterday moving bees to goldenrod by hand. Ooh, moving bees. Always fun. But I've heard that you're having a good goldenrod flow up there. Send it on down, buddy. Send it on down. I see a lot of bees on buckwheat. They're collecting nectar or just pollen. Now, someone may correct me on this, but I've never seen any pollen come from buckwheat on anything that I've planted. And we try to plant something every year. I've actually got some nice clips, and the bees were working it like mad early in the morning till about 11 a.m. And it was just insane. It was just like it was a roar all morning for several I don't know, a couple weeks. It was nice, but I don't think they produce any pollen off of that. Here comes another shiner, Cayman. Yeah, yeah. Just kind of get used to it after a while. Any luck with Hop Guard 3? Randy, I have to be honest, I've never used Hop Guard 3. I've used Hop Guard 2 and Hop Guard 1, And, you know, it's just one of those things where you've used a product twice and you didn't like it at all. You didn't like applying it. It didn't knock the mites back good enough. You didn't like anything about it. And it just makes you really reluctant to try the third version. I really think the secret serum to mite control is number one, understanding your season and understanding your bees. I think your season has a lot to do with it. And if you're reproducing a lot of mites, you got to kill more mites, obviously, than someone who doesn't. And I've never, in any trial that I've done personal in the past, or I expect the experimental yard as we get the last of this information and make that available, we are going to find that it does not give us the 90% that it says that it's going to. I could be wrong. We have not taken the final alcohol washes yet after treatment. So that will be coming up. But we do multiple treatments, one in early summer and then one in late summer. And that's important because I don't ever feel like I get 90+% on average. I feel like more often than not, we're looking at 80% effectiveness. And I like the Thiamol Apiguard product. I feel like it does a really good product. Bob uses it quite a bit as well. Let's see here. Does anyone on here use lay-ins hives? So how do you do your treatments? Yeah, maybe somebody can help you with that. It would be nice to see some videos on that. Is it possible to plug up the brood nest with sugar syrup this time of the year and it result in less winter bees? It absolutely can happen, and you can do it. You can even cause them to swarm late in the season. It's harder to do this time of the year, but it is possible. Right now, we're just giving our bees a little bit of feed, a little bit of feed. We definitely don't want them going backwards. I'd like to see the double deeps have a minimum of 3 deep frames worth of feed at all times. That's kind of the rule of thumb for anything that's over a single is what I consider a 10 frame box. So if it's 8 frames of bees and above, I want 3 frames of honey equivalent at all times. And if we start going over that a good bit, then maybe we'll gear back a little bit. But we're just trickle feeding, trying to keep the momentum, and we're hoping that the goldenrod and the wing stem and those other things are going to pack a lot of way in there, and we don't have to do too much fall feeding. But we usually do quite a bit of fall feeding. A certain percentage won't need it, and some will need quite a bit. Hey, Kamon, what are your plans as far as study yards next season, or what are your plans about spring 2022? That's a great question, Be Original, and I've had to really think about this because with the conference that we're doing, it has grown quite significantly. The YouTube channel has grown quite significantly in the last couple of years. Being asked to speak at places, Zoom meetings, and a lot of things have changed a lot. We're getting asked to ship honey more. We're getting asked to do a lot of things differently, and I can only do so many things well, and so I'm having to really reevaluate what we're doing and what we can do. And I see 2022 being quite a big change from this year. It is my intention to drop our operation down to 200 colonies. So it's going to be a big drop of production colonies, and I think I'm going to be a lot happier for it. I think my wife will be happier, which goes into the old classic, happy wife, happy life. Before I got married, I received 10 different things on a list from my Papa Jim, my Uncle Jimmy on good marriage advice, and that was right at the top. I think at the bottom was leaving the toilet seat down. But anyways, that we need to cut back so we can focus on doing things better. I'm wanting Be Original Tennessee to focus more on research. It's something that I feel like is really important to achieving my goal, which is helping more people be successful with bees. And that goes into my other goal, which is to see a resurgence in beekeeping as we know it. Right now, there is monopolies everywhere in this industry. There's not a lot of innovation. There is technology out there that other industries have been using for decades that would be useful for this industry, and it's not available. I'm really frustrated by that. I feel like we're behind. And I understand that we are a small market compared to a lot of industries, but I feel like that just means that we as beekeepers we got to take it upon ourselves. And I know there's a lot of good people in beekeeping that want to be successful, so that's kind of my goal, is to do better research and kind of fit into that more, and gear back my bee operation and focus more on better quality videos and definitely better research in the experimental yard. Next year, my hope is to be able to legally use and get EPA approval for the oxalic acid glycerin pads and the shop towels, and have two sections for that. I feel like oxalic acid is one of the products of the future, and we just need to find a better delivery than what we have, because the vapor is good and I like it, and the dribble's good, and it can, but they're both limited. We need something that's an extended release. So I really appreciate you all, because this isn't something that I can do it all by myself. Just watching the videos helps so much. Coming to our conference helps so much, because it really helps me network with these companies. Right now, I'm trying my best to get Lysin out there. Lysin has so many neat products. There's several companies like Swanty. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but you can look online at some of these European companies. They're amazing. They've got products for the smaller operation and sideliner that we could only dream of having here in the United States, and that's not right. We should have it here too, and then some. So anyways, I'll get off my soapbox and get back to some questions. I'm in Idaho. Was wondering how late it is too late for virgin queens to mate and still have a good brood pattern before winter. In Idaho, I don't know all of Idaho's weather patterns, but from what I understand is you all get colder than we do quicker. So you're in the 11th hour for that. It's possible that she could come back and lay a good brood pattern, but is she going to have enough winter bees and enough bees to overwinter? Maybe you have a queen that's not so good. You can paper combine those colonies and get that new queen, as long as she's proven that she's worthwhile, and combine them together. But I have a lot of little mating nukes right now. I'd say, well, I say a lot. I'm probably down to like 40-ish, something like that, that are really nice queens. They have about 3 on average frames of bees. Some of them are closer to a 5-frame nuke, like I plugged in the recent video. I plugged a few of those in. And I don't like overwintering a lot of little colonies. I just don't like it at all. So we're hunting down big colonies that we can either pull brood from. Like if we can pull 1 frame of brood from this big colony, 1 from this colony over here, put it together with those 3-frame nukes, and between now and then maybe we can beef them up. But you know your season better than I do, and I don't like overwintering little colonies. High percentage of loss in comparison to nice big ones. I don't, after... Well, if you're not counting the loss of forager bees, I really don't like to go into winter with less than 8 frames of bees. And then after the old bee die-off, we're looking probably around 5 frames of actual cluster. That's really the minimum that I would like to fool with. I don't like them being that small. We are having an acre clear to make a pollinator area. That is awesome. All right, this jumped on me big time. Hey, Tyler, thanks so much for being a part and helping us out. Any successful ways of preventing swarm/absconding after reducing boxes and adding Apigard? See you at the Iowa conference. Let's go Huskers. All right, college football fan. And roll Tide, by the way. Any successful way of preventing swarm/absconding after reducing boxes and adding Apigard? Well, first of all, Apigard, I don't like using it. I won't use it unless the colony is about 8 frames strong. Some people probably use it when there's less bees than that, but it does slow brood production down. It does. And so if it's a big, powerful colony that has a lot of bees after the treatment's over, then they can bounce back really fast. But if you're doing it to a little colony, it may not cause them to abscond, but it may just shut them down so much, and they're already so small, they didn't really need to be shutting down. This is one of the reasons why Aprivar was a product that I switched to a couple years ago. I just don't trust it now. And it's really, besides it being a synthetic, was the perfect treatment. If it was a natural product and work 90+%, it'd be the perfect thing. You stick it in there, there's no effect to the colony's brood production, everything just works out great. But the thymol and the formic really slow the bees down. What I would do if I was you is maybe consider on those little colonies not using thymol. Is that what you're having, is like a little colonies, Tyler, that you're using Apigard and they're absconding? Because if you use it on a small colony or you use it on a swarm, a lot of times it will send them to the trees. What would you do to correct a hive and make a honey crop that is missing a queen and unsure if there is a virgin just as the honey flow starts? Well, this year I had a colony swarm, and I went in there and made sure there was no virgins, and I crushed the cells and I combined it to the colony next to it on the pallet and made a super colony, and they produced a nice honey crop. But it sounds like you already have a virgin in there. The best thing that could happen right now for you Dominican beekeepers, for that virgin to come back and start laying. Once that queen starts, if she comes back and she starts laying, they're going to clear space for her and they're going to push all of that nectar above. So make sure that you have combs above or space above for them to go with it, because when that queen comes back, if she starts laying and they have places to go with it, they're going to move all that stuff in the brood nest up and out of the way. And really the best thing you can have is a laying queen right now. If you end up with no queen in there, then I suggest that you combine it with a colony that does have a good queen. This is why it's important, I think, to always have splits. You can never have too many good queens. Little 3-framers, 5-framers, plug them into a colony that went queenless, all kinds of different things. It's such a up and down roller coaster throughout our season. We'll get to a part in the season this year. We had way over 450 colonies at one point. Now we're probably around 300, low 300s, something like that. And so, you know, it's ebbs and flows. Now we sold off quite a few of those, but you know, it's a constant going up, going down, and trying to maintain the numbers that we want. All right. Let's see here. Jeremy Lindsay, Homestead Farm and Honeybees. I planted 1/3 of an acre of sunflowers for the bees during this last dearth. The honeybees and other pollinators love them. Hey Jeremy, is there a type of sunflower that you've noticed the bees like to hit? Let's see here. How do you feel about putting an uncapped queen cell, not a swarm cell, into a queenless colony? I have a colony trying to supersede when she is still laying sheets of brood here in mid-Michigan. Wow, that is really annoying, Dave. It happens though. Is that a new queen that's laying those sheets of brood, or is she an old queen? Is it one that you reintroduced recently? You could put a uncapped queen cell into a queenless colony. I mean, whenever I have a queenless situation, there's no virgin or anything, my favorite thing is always a queen cell. Capped ones are better, and I like a cell protector if possible. But queen cells are great. When they won't accept a mated queen easily, they'll accept a queen cell most times. You and that tie, go Irish. Hey, you Irish barely pulled off that Florida State game. I will admit, though, it was a lot more fun to watch the Florida State and Notre Dame game than it was to watch Miami get bludgeoned by Alabama. Yeah, Bob, when I talked to him, he said the sourwood flow was terrible this year. What will it take to get some of your surplus bees? Thanks for your time, Laurel. And Laurel mostly. Hey, Joe. So in late January, 1st of February, we start doing nucleus colony orders. And we may be selling off some singles even in the spring this coming year. We'll have to see. Like I said, we're going to be reducing our operation. Sometimes less is more, and we've been really blessed this year, but it's just too much work for 2 people that are homeschooling their kids and trying to do a lot of other things as well with bees. Craig Midget, go Knowles. What is wrong with you? Where are you from? I thought you were a Tennessee boy. Palmer Brothers, thanks again for coming on, Palmer Brothers. Kamon, looking forward to the conference. What is your benchmark weight for double deep there in Tennessee? I want to see 60 pounds minimum. If they have too much in spring, I always find colonies that are a little light. And you can go into these big colonies. I actually do this every year because there's always probably 3 or 4 colonies in the yard out of a yard of 40 colonies, maybe more than that if I fed a little heavy. And they'll have too much. And I can go in there and just pull a full cap frame of what's goldenrod honey or sugar syrup capped and yank that out and plug that into a colony in February and that has no food or very little food, and bam, they're already saved for quite a while. So 60 pounds minimum in a double deep situation. Just kind of I trickle feed up until about let's see, mid-October. Mid-October for Tennessee beekeepers, it's going to be a little bit different for you all that are northern. When that fall flow starts to ebb a little bit, especially start seeing the asters bloom, get into those colonies, check them. There's not going to be a whole lot more nectar coming after that point. Go ahead and start feeding them. Get it in there while the getting's good. Allow those bees to be able to dry that stuff out and cure it up. Don't wait till the last minute. And in a mild year, though, I can feed my bees 2 to 1 sugar syrup in November. Florida native, Craig Midget. Well, it's a good game. I thought they might do it. Byron Ferris, bottling honey and listening as well. Good way to pass the time. Hey, there's been a lot of honey over there in Columbia this year, Byron. Glad to hear it for sure. All right. The Alabama doesn't rebuild, they just reload. I almost felt a little bit bad, Don, because looking at Bryce, their new quarterback, I almost feel bad, almost guilty. Not really, but almost. Because 4 touchdowns in his first start ever, that's almost an embarrassment of riches. Getting back to beekeeping, though, Hat B. Acres asks, any trouble requeening while using Apiguard or Formic? We haven't, but wondered if anyone has. So during treatment, I imagine it would be terrible percentages, but after the treatment, I think it really depends on the condition of the colony. Is there a lot of young bees in there? I think that really just is what it comes down to. If the bees are really old, maybe you wait too long after the treatment, maybe they lose their queen. This is, I think, where people get in a lot of trouble, and it's kind of hard to know what to do sometimes. Let's say you use a formic acid or thymol or nothing at all, and your colony just decides to supersede due to treatment or for whatever reason. A lot of us are taught, and rightly so, come back in an appropriate amount of time and then check for a queen. The problem is if you do that and there is no queen and she didn't come back, your bees are old and you need to take action now. This is where having, again, those little extra little colonies throughout your bee yard to plug in those insurance colonies. This happens to everybody at some point. Happens to us all throughout the season. I don't know, it's probably happened to us 50 times this year throughout June to now, I would say. Just colonies go queenless. Swarming, supersedures gone wrong, whatever. And after mites, it's our next big problem. Are you still a fan of the Laura Bees Vaporizer? Now, I haven't used it since winter, but I do like the construction, and I do have a ProVap 110 that I've used a lot. As long as it continues to work good for me, I don't see any reason why I won't use it over the ProVap this year. The price is better. Rob provides better customer service, and at our conference, he is going to have a really nice deal on them, so they're not only going to be less than the ProVap anyways, they're going to be at a discount with free shipping. So that's going to be good. Speaking of which, we are almost at 40,000 subscribers, and thanks for being one of them. We're giving away the ProVap, not the ProVap, the Laura Bee Vaporizer with the mask that's got the carbon filters, which you need for oxalic acid. It has safety goggles, I can't remember how many pounds of oxalic acid crystals ready to use in there. It's basically ready to go, 5 caps for it, the whole 9 yards. So be watching out for that video, because if you comment on that, we will be doing a I don't know what date we're going to use, probably the end of the month, I'd say, and then we'll be giving that away. There's going to be some giveaways at the conference, too. I wouldn't be surprised if there will be another Laura B vaporizer. All right, all right. Southern Oregon bees, when to stop feeding? Well, get in there and look at your bees. I like 60 pounds in a double deep colony. You want to get in there and see that there is good brood production going on. You want to see that there's a little bit of food above the brood. You don't want to see a bunch of food in between the cells of the brood. If you feed like the day before or two and they're just bringing it in, they're going to do that. It's very natural for bees to go out into the field or grab the syrup that you feed and put some of it down in between the larvae. The difference is a few days after you feed and they're done getting all the feed out of there, of your frame feeders or your bucket feeders, they should have moved that out of the queen's way. And if they haven't, then that probably means that they have too much food in there. But you should be able to see some capped food in there. And if you're not seeing capped food this time of the year, then you need to be feeding. Doesn't have to be a ton, but needs to be some, and definitely watch out because winter will be here before we know it. And I know in some parts of Oregon, you're already getting frost. Kamon and I have some hives that are double deeps and one that is a triple deep. I'm afraid they will swarm if I don't do something about the situation. I have a triple deep raising drones. How do I assess? Woo! I have some colonies that are like that. Actually, I'm fixing to release a video on that. It's a colony that has 2 queens in it, and you may in that triple deep. It wouldn't shock me, and I'll add them. Sometimes when they supersede the queen, they don't kill the original, and you have 2 queens going for a while, and it makes those crazy powerful colonies. If you don't want any more bees than that, then the only thing I could recommend is if you have one of them that's maybe weaker than the others, you can pull a frame of brood from the big one, shake it off into the colony, and swap some combs out and try to balance the colonies out. I don't know where you're at, Adam. You could make a split in some locations. In some areas, that would be very ill-advised. But strong bees are an awesome thing to do. An awesome thing to have, and it's an awesome thing to keep them that strong. I need to get some sugar in me. Apparently, where's my honey? All right. How do I get my bees to draw out honeycomb in September? That's very difficult to do in many parts of the country. The dearth period that we have in summer, some people don't have that, but a lot of us do. And as the bees naturally decline in population, their ability to be able to draw as much or want to draw as much lessens and lessens. It takes a lot of feed to be able to make the bees want to draw comb, and there also has to be a good bit of natural pollen making them want to brood, and also you need a really good laying queen. Queens that are a little bit subpar don't want to draw comb near as good. A strong laying queen is one of the best things that you can have. It's really that combination we talk of all the time. We need a great queen in there with great nutrition, dead mites, and all those things are propelling the colony forward with momentum so that they can grow, expand, and draw combs. And typically during the summer dearth, you have a lack of nutrition. Queens get tired from spring laying and they take a little bit of a nosedive due to nutrition, and also they get tired. They do. And the mites go up too, so it could be a combination. And a lot of times we just don't draw combs good here in Tennessee in September either. Richard Way, I have 2 nuke boxes and 3 high with a queen in each box, and one side has 40 pounds of honey, the other has 12 pounds of honey, and the other has mostly brood, if you understand. Yes, but what do you want them to do with it, Richard? Balance them out? Just take a frame and switch them around? Yeah, double screen boards is great. They're a nice tool to have around in certain situations. Nuts and bolts beekeeping. I have a hive that I have requeened, and the new queen is only laying in the upper box, double deeps. Plenty of space in the lower, nearly empty. Should I rotate the boxes? I would do it, nuts and bolts beekeeping. It maybe where you're at, it's a lot colder than what it is in Tennessee, but right now I have no issue at all with rotating those boxes. If you don't have small hive beetles, give them a little bit of pollen patty. And even if you do, I still give them a little tiny bit anyways. If it's a strong colony, I usually give them at least half pound, but you can go a quarter pound, and that'll help out a little bit. That's one thing that you may consider doing. I know small hive beetles are an issue for a lot of people, but I really like to go ahead and get a little bit of extra protein in there. We just want so many fat winter bees. The more that we get, the better chances of survival, and the bigger they are, the more bees we're going to have to make honey next year and to split. And there's nothing like having nice big clusters going into winter. Yeah, the Lord Bee Vaporizer is nice, Palmer Brothers. I really like it too. Hey, what is the hotel name that is connected to the convention center? Try to make things easy for myself. Ah, goodness. If you wouldn't have asked me, I could have told you. Hmm. I'll maybe think of it here in just a second. Goodness. I've got to put a list together. We've got a couple more hotels with discounts for the conference, but typing up all the rules for the honey show and making sure I can manage that. We have a bluegrass band that is a professional level bluegrass band. These guys are Grand Ole Opry players, some of them that are going to be playing. It's totally optional. It's just something extra to do late Friday evening. So after all the conference stuff is done, if people want to go out and get something to eat for dinner and hang out and do that, or and just stay out there, that's fine. Or if they want to go out and grab something to eat and then come back and that night have a 1 hour bluegrass show, it's going to be really good. And there'll be, of course, beekeepers around to talk to about bees and have music in the background. We have some really skilled musicians in this country. All right, and Yvonne, if I don't send anything back, you can always message hivelifeconference@gmail.com. I try to get to everything, but I miss some. Brian Washburn. Yes, there is some tickets available for the conference. We've actually met our goal, but that's not our capacity. I was really surprised that we already met our goal for this conference, basically to be able to make sure that we were able to do all the things that we wanted to do. And yeah, it's going to be quite something else. So the nice thing is, now that this is our second conference, I have more vendors who are willing to work with us and realize that we have some things to offer them, and it's just going to get better from here. It's going to snowball on us, but there's going to be hundreds of beekeepers there, several hundred, and we still have a little bit of room. I'd say about 20%, and then that's like topped out full. Oh boy, we got a spammer. I think I'm going to get to this one before Laurel does. Got him. All right, back to questions. Okay, Adam says, on the triple deep, the queen actually is going all the way up to the top and laying bees. I cannot believe what I saw when they were backfilling the frames with nectar as the brood was hatching. Wow, that's incredible. I don't know where you're at, Adam, but if you have a long season, you might could order a good queen and make a split that actually was quite strong. I wouldn't make anything smaller than a 5-frame nuke this time of the year in Tennessee. What's your opinion on HopGuard 3 and Aprivar for a first-time treatment? First-year beekeeper, and this is my first treatment. Well, both of those treatments are supposed to work. If I had to choose between the two of those, I would definitely go the Aprivar. It's got a history of doing a lot better. I've had some reports of people saying they've used it and the mites didn't go down this year. I've had some people say they've used it like they always have, and that it's done a fantastic job for them. So it really just depends on, pick your poison, HopGuard 3 or Aprivar. That's why I like doing the alcohol washes, as I know what I have and what is working and what's not. It's really frustrating right now. I think that's why I'm really excited with the experimental yard, long-term focusing more on the oxalic acid shop towels and the oxalic acid pads. There's also some off-label thymol, and I'm hoping that we can get some EPA approval to test these products out, because I really feel like some of the stuff that we have available is, one, expensive, and two, for what we're paying for, we're not getting enough out of it. When will we get conference discounts? Still looking for an extractor, first year beekeeper here. Hey, happy camper. So right now, what I'm dealing with on the conference and um, is I have several people who are willing to give me some information, and I have more people who aren't willing to do anything yet. I really feel like it's because some of these vendors are kind of holding back right now because of coronavirus concerns. And for one, we have made sure that we have a building that's plenty big enough, even at half capacity, that we can space out like crazy if we have to. That being said, some of them are a little reluctant to commit. I think that's one reason, but I think the biggest reason is because of supply and demand right now is stupid in this country. And I wonder why. And because of that, they're afraid to give any hard prices because they're concerned that wood prices or something else are going to change. I will have some numbers for you all. Right now, my priority is to my bees. I've got to finish with the last treatments. I've got to get this experimental yard done correctly so that I can get information that will be valuable to all of us and kind of get a. It's not that I'm doing anything super special with it because there's other places that have also tested things, but I'm hoping to be able to compare them to like what the University of Guelph did when you start maybe seeing some similarities, I'm hoping, and then go from there. But I need to make sure I get these things done. So right now, my goal is to the end of September and early October, feed my bees, get the treatments on, experimental yard completely finished, and all that kind of stuff. And when we get into October, I should have all of that stuff. I should have the majority of the discounts, who's going to be there, and all those things. There's going to be more information coming out on the conference soon, but I need to get more help. That's really what it comes down to. And that's why we're going to be dropping our colony numbers because I just can't handle it all right now. I will say, though, the horizontal hive fell, the guy that I got my horizontal hive from, they're $100 off of the conference. And those are nice. So you ought to look into his stuff. They're going to be there for you to look at, too, even if you're not planning on buying one. He's a really cool guy, Ricky is, so you can look at his horizontal hives, and he doesn't care if you go home and make your own. He's just trying to help beekeepers just like the rest of us. The vaporizers are going to be on discount. Dadant, Man Lake, like 10% discounts, free shipping, all that kind of stuff. But there will be some individual stuff. What I've been told, it's going to be Ultra Bee Pollen Sub, Loaded Frames and Foundation. Premier Foundation is going to have a big discount. I haven't got hard numbers yet. They're actually working on a way that you can contact them and be able to get the pre-orders in and get the pre-order discounts. And I think the more that we buy, the bigger the discount. So it's going to be pretty impressive. The good news is we've got 500 people already signed up. Over. I can't believe it. And that's really helpful when we're trying to broker deals with these companies and trying to get some of them, some of them like Hive Life Conference, Kamon Reynolds. Who the heck is this? Some of these conferences have been around since the 40s. And so we're very new. So in order to be able to approach these guys and say, hey, we can do you a service and, it'll be worth your time, it means a lot that people are willing to come on out and see Bob and all the rest of the speakers and myself and Laurel. So that's going to be, we're going to do our best to get you all the best discounts, and it's going to be good. So what do you all think about a black jar competition for the Hive Life Conference? Basically, the black jar is just you paint the outside of the jar. It can be as small as a Gerber baby food jar, and it's just taste test only. Blind test, of course, it'll be sanitary and all that stuff, but we're going to have some others as well. But has anyone ever done that? Does anyone like that kind of thing? Okay, excuse me. Yeah, Randy Oliver is testing with extended release oxalic acid treatments, and I feel like he's onto something. Maybe not the something yet, but he's in the right direction. And could there possibly be other delivery methods than what he's using that could be better? We don't know. But I feel like Randy Oliver is really kind of one of the things that we like about him the most, at least I do, is that he's a beekeeper first and foremost, and he's trying to champion some positive change for dealing with mites and in a natural way. And I'm excited about that. Hasn't been a lot of change. Definitely not good positive change. Oxalic acid vapor, I guess, is the biggest change we've had in a while, and it's just not enough. Yeah, the black jar is always interesting. I've had a lot of honey sent to me from you all over the last couple years, and I've been really blown away by the. Really, a lot of the honey looks the same, just a little different shades in yellow, but the flavor is extremely different. It's pretty cool. All right. Have you ever noticed if you put a nuke in a strong yard, they get robbed out? Is this a reason for nuke yards? Handy Dandy 33. Yes, Handy Dandy. It's not necessary. It's not always the case, but it is nice to have nuke yards. It's nice to have mating nuke yards. Those little colonies really feel the pressure during a dearth, especially if it's a bad year like it has been for many beekeepers in the western part of the country where they haven't got rain. The dearth has been even more. It's been worse. It's been longer. It's been worse in every way. And so that just puts more added stress on colonies to get resources by any means necessary. And if that is picking on little 5-frame, 3-frame nukes, then that's a problem. Another thing with little nukes is even in a Jester nuke box, if they get filled all the way up, it doesn't matter if there's holes in that Jester nuke box. They will abscond. They don't swarm, they abscond because their body heat's just too much. The heat from the summer sun and the bees, they'll just abscond out of that box. I've seen it several times over the last couple of years. So the way I feel about it with my Jester nuke boxes or any nuke box is I need to get them out of there once they hit about 4 frames in summer. Get them in a bigger box. Get them some space because they will overheat for sure. All right. Hey, Jim, lad, thank you so much for coming on again and for donating. If you have a question, hit me with it. And I'm trying to figure out what your picture is right there, but I can't figure it out. I can't tell if it's an extractor or what that is. Oh, Lorena Olson says, I hope Maxent is coming too. We are working actually with a couple dealers of Maxent. I don't think Maxent is going to come themselves, but there's some dealers that are really good Maxent vendors. And Maxent has some really nice American-made stuff, but they're way behind on their fulfilling their orders right now. And that's again why some of these companies are reluctant to commit to certain things because they're concerned that they're going to even have enough inventory. I'm pretty optimistic that things are already starting to catch up a little bit, and in January it should have caught up a little bit more. But I definitely want Maxent there. They're an important part of the United States extracting industry, and they make some really high quality stuff. Dayton's definitely going to be there as well. Hilco is also going to be there and demonstrating one of their extractors, which has become very popular. They're not United States made, but many people like them in the price point. And you know, there's going to be a little bit of everything there. All right, let's see. South Carolina, Richard Way says. All right, so South Carolina's pretty warm. You can do some stuff there late in the season. So minty taste of honey. Turns out my new yard is near linden trees. I've never tasted any minty honey before, but they say that there's some ants in South America that also have a minty taste, but I'm just going to take their word for it when it comes to that. But it is really surprising all the different flavors of honey out there. Adam says, do you think the triple deep, if I can remove one box and be careful not to get the queen and set it on a new bottom board with a new queen, will make it through? You know better than I do, Adam. The thing of it is, I didn't see where you were located, but I like to overwinter my colonies at least 8 frames going into winter. That's on the low side. So if it's really a strong colony of that proportion, you should be able to break it down in the middle and at least have 10 frames in the splits minimum of bee coverage. Get that new queen in there. Make sure you give them a little bit of feed and space and all that kind of stuff. And if you can feed pollen patties and you're wanting to, even if there's pollen coming in, go ahead and give them a trickle. Anyways, keep them boosting, keep them going. Make those winter bees, and they'll probably overwinter fine. Depends on where you're at. If you're in upstate New York, it might be a little too late for that. I know beekeepers down here that are splitting bees still. I don't like doing it anymore this time of the year, but it can be done. It really depends on how strong the split is. I've made splits first day of March in Tennessee, and a lot of people say you can't do that either. All 5 of them survived. But we had some big colonies first week of March that were almost double deeps in strength already, and we just broke them down and made 5-frame nukes for each queen and gave them plenty of bee coverage and a little bit of feed, because bees burn through a lot of feed in March, and they did great. Yeah, Hilco has great customer service, and that's one thing that we really want to encourage. Companies like Hilco, Laura Bee Vaporizer, we have got to take a little control, us as beekeepers, and support these local guys, because we've got to put some competition on some of these bigger companies. They don't feel any pressure, or at least not enough right now, and they're not serving us the way that they should be. The only way we can do that is by purchasing and voting with our money. That's every time we buy something, we are voting. The Hilco extractor, Jason, is made in China. That's my biggest knock against it. I really don't like things being made in China, unless it's like actual China that you eat with. But these days, I don't know if I trust that either. That being said, it's a tricky environment we have with any type of market right now, because our government has allowed China to control so much of our economy, because they can get away with so much. I could create something brand new and then they can copy it and sell it and sell it. And that just totally drives such a huge difference in price between American prices and Chinese prices. Most people are going to buy the cheap stuff. It's really too bad. We should just eliminate that altogether, and then we have only one choice, which is American, which is going to create more wealth for us as individuals, so we can afford to pay more money for higher quality American-made stuff. But we don't do that anymore. However, here's something new. I don't know if I said this in the last live chat. Yeah, Maxine is made in the USA. But this is something coming to this conference, and I hope that if you are one of these type of people, that you will bring it with you if you come. We are going to be having a table or tables that are for new products. It doesn't matter if it's a brand new thing that's never been used in beekeeping before, or if it's a new vaporizer, or if it's a bee lid, for your hive that has maybe a different type of ventilation or this or that. It doesn't matter if it's new or different or an adaptation or whatever. Bring it to the conference. We're going to have a couple of tables for that. Long term, I'm hoping to turn this conference into an event that'll have 1,000+ people. That's going to be able to get us better speakers, more speakers, better vendors from out of country, some of those nice European countries especially, and get them on board. And we will have an amazing trade show. And we're also looking in ways to make it a little bit more cost effective next year for everyone. And just more stuff all the time, but bring those innovative ideas, because times have changed. And if you have a cool product that's useful and helpful, I'm going to look at it, and there's going to be like 8 or 9 YouTubers at the conference at least. At least 10 YouTubers. We are going to look at these products, and if they're good, we're going to do videos on them. So this year, I don't think we're going to have it as a competition, but 2023, it's going to be a competition, and there's going to actually be first, second, and third places for the coolest new product in beekeeping. It doesn't have to be completely brand new. Maybe it could be 2 years old or something like that. But I think we need to encourage these. these new inventions if they're good ones, and then put them on YouTube so people can see these useful products. Time to stop buying garbage and get some good products out there. All right. Kamon, what is the dates for the conference? It's January 7th and 8th. And Laurel will put a link in this video where you can look at the information for all of that. Have you tried the little styrofoam mating nukes? They seem like a nice way to get some queens mated. Hey, Nick, you can watch a video from the University of Guelph. I forgot his name for a second. Paul Kelly has a good video on that. If you're going to use those, watch his video. It's really well done on those mini nukes. I have some. I didn't like them even using his method and trying them other methods. I feel like it's kind of like a race car. If it's finely tuned, it's great. Otherwise, it can be disastrous. And that's what these things are. If it's not just right, they just abscond out of the boxes. They get too weak and they get slimed out. You lose a lot of good queen cells if you don't do it just right. I prefer having bigger colonies. And like right now, the last video that I produced, that was a 2-frame split. I dropped a queen cell in. I have some extra drawn combs, put them in there. They beefed up to 5 frames in strength. And now I go to a weak colony with a terrible queen and I plug it in, fixed. My production yard is back to the colony numbers that I wanted to be. Fresh queen, good brood. And if I would have stuck her in a mini nuke like that, you can't do that. Advantages and disadvantages. I'm not saying don't do it, but with something like that that's kind of really sensitive, start small. I highly recommend trying a couple out before you buy a bunch of them, because I have several that have been sitting collecting dust for the last couple of years because I don't like to use them anymore. Will entrance feeders provide enough syrup to draw a fresh comb? Probably not, Michael, unless it's an entrance feeder that I've never seen. It can also cause robbing this time of the year. But most entrance feeders that I've seen usually only hold maybe half a gallon at the most. I mean, it's not that it's impossible to do this time of the year, but it's hard to get bees to draw combs this time of the year. And the best thing to do would be to have a... You can do it with an entrance feeder, but you're going to need to fill it a lot. Trickle it in, make it thin, and ultimately it doesn't matter how much feed you feed them if the bees are not in a healthy shape to draw a foundation. Kamon, have a 2-hour beekeepers flea market at your conference. You will be surprised. Well, see, I would love to have something like that, like used equipment, but legally in the state of Tennessee, we can't sell anything used. If I did that, they'd put me in beekeeper jail big time. It's dumb. I can buy a frame feeder, or I can, like those mini nukes that I have, I bought several of them. I used some of them one time. There's hardly even propolis in there. I can't sell that to you. I can't sell that to you. Unless it has bees in there that have been inspected by the state, I can't sell that to you. It's so dumb. And I understand there's American foul brood out there. They're concerned about that. But 99.9%, 0.999999 don't have American foul brood. I've never had it. None of my friends have ever had it. None of the beekeepers in this area have ever had it. Been beekeeping 18 seasons. It's not that it couldn't happen, but I've got tons of equipment right now. I've got thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment that I'm just sitting on. It's annoying. Let's see. Saskatchewan, Canada. Well, greetings. Hope you guys are doing good up in that part of Canada. How much do you want for those mating nukes you're not using? You're trying to get me in trouble, Current Pest Control, aren't you? Yeah. I'm not saying I won't sell them to you, but I can't sell them to you. Yeah, if you have raccoons near the mini nukes, they will get gnawed all to pieces. Once those raccoons get a little taste for syrup, they'll yank the plugs out of your feeder buckets. They'll beat up your mating nukes, all kinds of stuff. My new product is being tested by Thomas D. Seeley right now. Well, look at you trying to just kind of give us just a little tidbit to make us curious, and you're probably not even going to tell us what it is, are you? Man. Hey, LaGrange Bees. Jim Vino has some nice videos, beekeeping and otherwise. Seems like a nice fella. I don't agree with him on everything, but I don't agree with anybody on everything. So my favorite people, though, are ones that disagree with me anyways. They usually have different ideas that make me a better beekeeper. John Tanner, good evening, Kamon. I have a really tough time with hive beetles this time of the year. Have you had any experience with the beetle baffle? I have not tried that. Has anyone on here tried that one? I haven't tried that one at all. I hate hive beetles so much. They've really given me a little bit of run for my money on a few of my smaller colonies this year. Hasn't been really bad, but it's super annoying. It's just part of it, though. Last year spoiled me. We didn't have very many small hive beetles, but we didn't have much honey either. So we'll take the honey. And by the way, for those of you who are on Facebook, follow me on Facebook. I post a lot of stuff on there, things that I can't post on YouTube, information about the conference. I have pictures of counting mites and bees and stuff like that, and little tidbits and different things like that. And when I do sell some stuff, like my old Kelly 30 frame extractor, I usually post it on my Facebook page. And there's several things that I'm going to need to sell this winter as we're downsizing our apiaries, going probably from 400 during spring. Now this year, we won't even get close to that. I'm going to probably go to 200 production colonies, I'd say, this coming spring, so we can focus more on research and the conference, doing a better job with our YouTube videos. I feel like right now I'm doing everything at about 70%, and I'm not happy with that at all. Things are going good, just too many things. All right. Okay, yeah, that's right, Adam. I think you have told me that you south of our state. That's right. Nelson Gonzalez. In Tennessee, you can still get a virgin queen mated. It's the percentages aren't quite as good, and I don't know where you're at, but it's still possible to get them mated this time of the year. Let's see here. Yeah, Laurel just posted the conference information up above. She's the moderator that drops the ban hammer on any fool that decides to disrupt our awesome beekeeping chat. All right here. Ooh, AFB the first year. That is a rough deal. Nuts and bolts beekeeping. I take equipment donations. Hey, hey, hey. There you go. Hey, Carlos. I have been doing really good. Thanks for asking, buddy. Well, Trevor, I see your point on used equipment sales and why you have not had American foul brood. However, I would say to argue against that point is that most of the United States is not like that, and most of the states around us are not like that. And I also will tell you that most of the professionals that I know do not follow those rules at all. But that's professional beekeeping to a degree. I mean, imagine this. You're a hobby beekeeper, and you've watched Bob's videos and mine, and you've gotten to the point where you've got 5 or 10 hives, and you're good at keeping them alive. You've kind of adopted that great queen, dead mites, and good nutrition. But now you don't have enough comb for everything, and what do you face every spring until you get enough? Swarming, swarming, swarming. Where you could just go over to a beekeeper like myself, who right now has too many combs, and get some disease-free combs that have no American foul brood scale whatsoever, and buy those. And now all of a sudden you throw those on at the beginning of your honey flow, and you've eliminated a large part of the swarming tendency just with having plenty of drawn combs. You make more honey, less swarming issues, all that kind of stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with selling certain things. I do believe in inspection. I do believe in some regulations, but they're completely destroying our economy here in Tennessee, beekeeping wise, by all these restrictions they have in the state of Tennessee. And there are safe ways to do it. I think this is the way I feel like it should be with not just beekeeping, but life in general. If you do something really bad, you sell someone a bunch of American foul brood stuff, there should be some big punishment for that. Drop the hammer on them. You'd scare everybody to ever do it again. It's the same way it should be with crime. You don't slap them on the wrist. You paddle them really hard. And you know what? They don't want to ever come back or do it again. That's just my opinion on it. Soapbox, getting off of it. All right, so let's see here. Well, thank you, LaGrange Bees. Several of those guys that you mentioned are actually going to be at the conference. I try to get Michael Palmer. He's open to doing some work with us in the future, but just not this year. Hopefully 2023 will be the year that we have Michael Palmer at our conference. That would be awesome. Reaching out to other guys like Paul Kelly with the University of Guelph and working on 2023 right now. That's the thing. We're working on the 2023 conference right now because you have to do it, be a year ahead and all that kind of stuff. Kamon, what's your idea of keeping drawn combs clear of wax moths? The best thing to do is have everything out of it. Dry combs. Keep plenty of ventilation going through those supers. It doesn't have to be like air blowing through it, but it doesn't need to be like on the ground and then a closed lid on top of it where it's completely dark and closed off. There needs to be some movement through there. Now, if you want to make sure that you don't have any issues, then you can use the Paramoth product that the companies sell. Some beekeepers are okay with using that, some are not. If you want a surefire way of not having to worry about it, use the Paramoth product, but I have not used that and had great success. But if it has bee bread or any type of brood remains, or if it's closed off, you're asking for trouble. All right. Hey, Jeffrey, you're welcome. Thanks for watching us. Clueless beekeeping. Well, I think it depends on what the punishment is. I'm not going to get into details because I don't want to get gruesome here. Hey, Jared. Jamie Ellis is one of the guys that we tried to get this year, but he already had an obligation with another conference, so we weren't able to get him, but we are already working with getting him in 2023. Jamie Ellis is a nice guy. He's very smart with his research, but he's also a good beekeeper, and he's fun to talk to. That's the type of people that we like to have at our conference. We want people that when they get off the stage, you can go up to them and say, hey, and they're not going to be a bum, you know? There's no reason to ever be stuck up. In Florida, you can sell honey up to $50,000 a year without a license. Wow. Yeah, Dr. Jamie Ellis is pretty cool. Let's see here. All right. I don't use pollen patty no more. Bees do fine without it. Pollen patty equals high beetles for me. Well, I'm glad that your area, you don't need it. I don't need it a lot of times. The healthy colonies definitely don't. I use it a lot to smooth out some gaps. Last year, we really needed it more. Ian Stepler, I was talking to him the other night about the conference, and we got talking about patties, and he's been feeding a lot this summer because they've had a terrible season in comparison to what they've had in the past. And drought means less nutrition, and he's been feeding more patties than usual, and he says the bees look really good still. I think patties are a wonderful tool to have in the toolbox. You don't always need them, and some places don't need them ever, really. Well, I say that, but even my buddy in Hawaii throws them on every now and then. Kamon, have you ever tried the EcoWood treatment on your hives? Can order from USA to get here in Australia? Hey, David Lowe, I'm not so sure about it. I've just started it this year, so I am not certain how long it lasts. I've heard from people that it only lasts for a little while, and I'm wax dipping my equipment. It's better. You know, I've painted equipment in the past. Bob Benny paints his equipment. He uses the copper naphthate underneath and then paints over it. And doing those wax dipping of the copper nap and then the paint over it, you're talking probably 2 decades if you take care of your equipment. And with the painting, maybe you come back and repaint occasionally. I don't know. I haven't asked Bob. With the wax dipping, I'm going to probably look at my wax dip boxes here in 10 years and see how they're doing. And if I need a wax dip, then maybe I'll do that. But I'll probably just sell them with bees in them and then buy some new stuff and re-wax it. But the eco wood treatment, I've heard from some beekeepers that it's not all that it's cracked up to be. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you're in a really dry area, which I think a lot of Australia is pretty dry, if I'm not mistaken, then maybe they'll do better. But in places like Tennessee, where we can get 3 inches of rain a week, not every week, we do get a lot of rain. We rot all year long, just about. We don't get much break from our equipment soaking up water and rotting. Hey Adam, glad that you got into beekeeping. It's a great hobby. If you haven't watched some of my buddies like Bob Binney and Ian Stepler, their YouTube videos, do that. The University of Guelph is also good, and there's some beekeepers that are on here as well, like Bruce's Bees and several other guys that have some very helpful videos as well. I'm excited by all of the people contributing on YouTube, and that's just a couple of them. Natalie, Beekeeping Like a Girl. I've never been very good at beekeeping like a girl. Not that I've really tried either. But no, she does a great job, and I'm excited to have her at the conference as well. And I love seeing young people get involved. There's a lot of young people that have signed up for the conference, and that was one thing that excited me about our last one and this one is that we have a lot of young people involved. That's exciting for the future of beekeeping. I hope that they stay with it, not only become good beekeepers, but become good researchers, either small timers like myself, or maybe researchers that are at a university, or develop products, which I am all about that. Develop products. Hey, Mike Berry, there you are. That's talking about a YouTuber right there. Looking forward to meeting Mike for the first time. We talked a couple times on the phone. Nuts and Bolts Beekeeping. Went to our Beekeeping Association meeting. I'm the youngest at 37. I know the feeling, man. I know the feeling. But that was what was so weird about our conference last time, and especially with the people attending this year, is there's a lot of young people getting involved, and it's exciting. I looked at some of the people coming this year. I'm like, teenagers, that's awesome. Just imagine if we get them involved. This is regeneration. This is what we need in beekeeping. Is okay. I started when I was 15, but I was doing all the wrong things into my 20s. I was messing up and tripping all over myself. But I didn't have access to the information that we have access to now. That wouldn't have made me better automatically, but I really think someone can watch Bob's, mine, Ian, and several of these other YouTubers' information and do what I'm doing in half the time I did it in. I truly believe that. What if we can get these young people to start in their teens, and by the time they're in their early 20s be doing what I'm doing? Then they're going to be progressing to the next level faster than I did and faster than Bob did. And what potential things could they discover and explore and innovate? That's where we've got to get back to young people and getting some regeneration. Let's see. Buzz of the Hive. Well, I don't know I didn't see any Buzz of the Hives in there, but Laurel does a lot of that. But what's your name, Buzz of the Hive, if you don't mind sharing? My daughter started a university at Murray State, and they don't even have a beehive. For shame. But there's even the local one we have here. They have a kind of a small beekeeping program, but not much. And what I have found by and large out of universities is they're really poor beekeeping programs. There are exceptions to that, but by and large, they're poor. And some of them, the information that they share is worse than if they'd have shared nothing at all. I'll never forget when a PhD out of the University of, I believe, it was one of the universities in Missouri, was saying that in summer, it's best to get into your hives at 6 a.m. in the morning because bees will be less aggressive than they will in the heat of the day. How have any of you been into bees at 6 a.m. in the morning in the summertime when none of the foragers have left out yet? Also, they said that frame feeders were hardly ever used in beekeeping, and it was a terrible idea. The frame feeders. I'm like, frame feeders are one of the most popular feeders in the United States. I'm not saying you should use them. Some people don't like them at all. But this is the type of information that was coming from this PhD at the university. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is awful. Hey, beekeeping like a girl. I thought that you might be on. You're if I say anything, you always pop up, so I have to be really careful because she'll make fun of me and really. There's nothing that gets me more than being picked on by a girl. That's my weakness. That's why Laura always beats me all the time. Yep, take care, 1-to-1. Keep the videos coming. We're watching. Hey, Kamon, glad to see you survive the summer. Barely. So glad that it's almost over. I do not like summer. What is my favorite thing to do in the beekeeping process? That's an interesting question. 1 second. Okay. Is it good out there? Okay, great. Laurel had to come in because she's managing. See, while I'm running my mouth, she's filling up a tank of syrup. We've got a 1,000, like 100-gallon sugar syrup tank that we pump and make our feed with, and she's out there moving syrup out of that tank and making sure it's not overflowing. But what's my favorite part of the beekeeping process? That's something I've actually had to sit down and think about a lot this year because we've taken on too much. I really can't say one thing necessarily. I really love seeing honey being made, but I think I love seeing new queens come back from queen cells. I believe that's my #1 favorite thing when it comes to working the bees. If it was honey, nukes, or queens, I don't like raising queens to sell as much as I like raising my own queens and making new, healthy, fresh colonies that just do awesome. I love seeing colonies that I made the year before that grew into their own and make a wonderful colony the next year, and then I can split and make offspring and repeat the cycle. But I like talking bees as much as the next guy. That might be my favorite part is getting to. I've always loved hanging out with beekeepers and getting to collaborate, and that's why this YouTube has kind of been one of the funnest things that happened to me, just because it's something I already like to do. Anyway, sorry about all the hair and everything. We've had to do some welding on the truck today and pumping syrup and all kinds of different things, treating and videos, made 2 videos today, and I haven't had time to brush my hair. I need to do better. Let's see here. Jeffrey says, my dad's 79 and I'm 57. We started last year. The first lesson we learned is that neither of us expected it to be heavy lifting. We built long legs this year. Well, Jeffrey, it can be not only heavy, but as you know, that awkward weight. Because if there's bees on the box or side of the box, you got to kind of keep it away from your core, and it's terrible. It's rough on your back, and even with a young back like mine, after doing hundreds and hundreds of boxes a week, it just I can't sleep on my back. I roll over on my stomach, and it's terrible. I don't sleep good. Summer and honey pulling is rough. But I hope that long laying works out good for you. I've really enjoyed mine. Let's see here. I missed a couple questions up here. Hey, Kamon, I took 15 hives out to 200 acres of buckwheat in Iowa this weekend. Can't wait to see some of the buckwheat honey. The fields were beautiful. Wow, 200 acres. Hey, Kevin, please let me know how that works out for you. I hope that it works out good for you. Let's see here. Beekeeping like a girl. She's laughing at me. That's all right. I'm used to it at this point. Yeah, well, and So I've got like the bucket feeders that Bob likes to use, and there's pros and cons with everything. So I've got frame feeders and bucket feeders. I personally, if I had a way of doing feeding, ideally, which I'm starting to implement, I want a bucket feeder and I want frame feeders as well. I don't want any of the small 1 gallon frame feeders anymore. I don't like, they're too small. I love the fact that Bob puts out videos that are helpful, and they've been helpful to me as well. I looked at getting some different frame feeders in the past and wasn't sure what to get. I was thinking about going to 2 gallons. So Bob said to try the 1.5, because you can put 8 frames in there with that 1.5 gallon Mann Lake frame feeder, and it fits just right. Doesn't really violate the bee space. And so it gave me a little information, and I tried it out, and sure enough, it works really well. The reason I want to have both of them, though, is because I want to have that frame feeder, because when I want to put on weight, that frame feeder, a good strong double deep will take that 1.5 gallons in one day. They'll just burn right through it. And sometimes it's nice to be able to just go to that. With the bucket feeders, the biggest problem I have with them is that they'll plug the holes in them. You got to unplug those. Also, there's usually a tiny bit of syrup that doesn't get taken, and that ferments up in there and gets nasty and all kinds of stuff. And then you also have to take the buckets off, and they can get blown off. And if you have raccoon problems, then they're an issue. But they are really good in the fact that you can have extra frames in there. They're also wonderful if it's getting cool in the season. They'll take it out of that bucket when they won't out of the frame feeder. You also don't have to worry about drowning with the bucket feeder, but those are my two favorite right there. Let's see here. Hey, no problem. It is my pleasure. Boom chicka wah wah. Wow wow. I think that's how it's supposed to go. What is your opinion on open feeding? It is frowned upon here in the UK, but some YouTube beekeepers swear brood builds quicker if the feed comes in through the front of the hive. I think it should be allowed myself. I think what beekeepers need to do is start working with each other better, though. I think local beekeepers, especially places like the UK or areas where there's a lot of beekeepers, we've got to network better. We are our best assets. The things that we can do because there's more of us is infinitely better. And why I'm saying this is because if you're open feeding, you could be affecting your neighbor. The trick is, let's say I started open feeding my yard here. This is where it gets a little tricky, and this is why you got to have that collaboration. My buddy might not pull his honey till late August or early September, and then I put out 40 gallons of open feed here at the house, and he's getting some contamination in the supers. That's where you got to have that collaboration. I do think open feeding can be a positive thing for the bees, but it might not be a positive thing for your neighbors. So it's complicated. Let's see here. I want to plant for my bees. What's best? That's tricky. That is really tricky. A lot of different things that you can plant. It really depends on your area. Basswood trees take a long time, but basswood or linden trees produce good nectar. Black locust trees are great. Tulip poplar can be good. Then there's some invasives that you can bring in. Clover is always great for the bees. When I look for something to plant for my bees, I really don't focus on nectar so much. It takes so many acres to produce a big honey crop. But the pollen is what I look forward to. So something that can get some good healthy pollens into my bees is priority number one. I can feed sugar syrup pretty quickly. You can't replicate pollen. What pays better, bees or YouTube? Great question. Bees. Now, okay. If you're running a beekeeping channel, it's bees. Now, if you're on a YouTube platform like, say, entertainment or something, I watch Smarter every day for multiple reasons. Destin's a really nice, clean guy. His information's cool. He's fun to watch, and he's as importantly as any of it, a Roll Tide Alabama True Blue fan. So I love watching his stuff. He's got millions of followers. I'm never going to get that off of YouTube. But there is other opportunities with YouTube, like this conference, and there's other things like that, putting on classes and different things like that. So there is a lot of opportunities, and it kind of feeds in on itself, because what I'm starting to do is take, well, for example, my bees, I was selling nukes before the YouTube channel, but now it's a breeze to move my nukes. Beforehand, it was hard. It was hard to get enough customers, and it wasn't that my nukes were bad, it's just nobody knew who I was. And then, which there's nothing wrong with that, it's just, it's marketing. It's nice to be able to have it a lot easier. It's also easier to market and sell my honey now. So really the YouTube complements the beekeeping side of things quite nicely. It's easier for me if I get a handful of queens I need to sell off for extra singles, boom, YouTube moves them for me. So they really go hand in hand, but I definitely couldn't support ourselves strictly off of YouTube. And together, though, it did make quitting my truck driving job a lot easier. All right, where are we? Mm-hmm. A lot of, and this is something that I want to focus on in the future. I know guys like Bob and Ian, and they run big operations, and so do Rick. And I've got a few hundred colonies, but what I would love to see, I'd love to see more guys like that and gals. No, no problem with that. But I want to see beekeepers that are in that 20 colony to 50 colony range, or even 15 colonies. That's a really nice sustainable range there. It's easy to make splits with that many hives if they're managed properly. It's easy to make a good quantity of honey in a good year. It's a lot easier to do many things, and I think that there's good opportunities. It's not as complicated as when you get to a few hundred hives plus, where you have to really start looking into some big machinery, or even around 100 hives, you start needing to look into equipment to help you speed things up. And if you can keep it somewhere around 2 or 3 dozen colonies, maybe 50 tops, you can still make some good side income. You can still do a great job. You don't have as big of a investment into big extractors or tons of boxes, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think a lot of times we get too caught up in the numbers game. Oh, I've got 500 hives, I've got this many hives, and it's silly, um, especially if you're overworked and or you're not managing your bees properly. It is so true. It is better to have a little too little hives than what you can manage and do it at 100% than to have twice as many as you can manage. What a miserable state. You got all that investment in there. You're losing bees because you can't manage them. It's a terrible situation. You're stressed and you're not enjoying being out there with the bees. I have been there too often. No more. All right, so I had hive bearding heavily 2 weeks ago yesterday. Looked good inside except for some beetles. Added beetle barns, added HopGuard 3 miticide. Today I had tons of dead bees on the entrance. Ideas. Now, Angela, when you say tons of dead bees, are we talking a couple hundred? Are we talking a few thousand? One of the things that I've known about HopGuard in the past is that bees that touch those strips and get a little bit of that material on them can sometimes die because of it. I don't know if you're experiencing a ton of dead bees. I would consider 1,000 at least. And if it's a couple hundred, like, okay, for instance, the long hive, the horizontal hive videos that we've been doing, we just did the thiamol. I just filmed the second dose of thiamol for that, and I did lose some bees. I probably had 200, 300 dead at the entrance. I looked into them today, and it's okay. The colony's fine. Just makes me wonder sometimes if some of the bees get caught in the material, maybe hauling it out, or some of the brood gets touched by the thiamol and gets burned, and where the brood's more sensitive. I don't know. But a lot of these natural treatments, brood loss or little bee loss is somewhat normal. I don't have any experience with HopGuard 3. Let's see. Angela says at least several hundred. They seemed irritated by HopGuard. I've never used HopGuard 3, but honestly, Angela, if you'd have used Formic Pro or even Thymol, there's a good chance you'd have had similar results. This is one of the frustrating things about beekeeping right now, is that the natural products can be a little rough on the bees, especially if the temperatures are a little hot. And they're not always as effective as we like. They cause damage to our bees. Even though they're more natural, there's a lot of natural things that can kill you. So dosage is important. I also like to say that we're having issues with our synthetics, and I think as time progresses, we unfortunately may lose Aprivar. I hope that's not the case, but there is some testing going on right now. I hope that'll shed some light on what's going on with Aprivar, whether it's resistance or poor quality control. We're not left with a lot of options, and oxalic acid vapor is a super weak treatment. So is oxalic acid dribble when there's a lot of brood. We're not left with a lot of options, and oxalic acid vapor only kills for maybe a day at the most, in my opinion. And the more they research it, the more they find that it's weak. So what do we do? What do we do to not really hurt our bees, but to protect them and to keep our combs clean? What do we do? And what's something that's a surefire way? It's frustrating. It's really maddening. And that's why I really think we have got to encourage young men and women, and people that are older too, but we have got to push innovation. And we have got to vote with our dollars as much as we can. Randy Oliver is a place where I've seen people vote with their dollars, and it's been really productive. And that's why I'm going to be gearing down on our beekeeping operation next year. I want to have more fun. I say fun as enjoy my work more because I'm not overwhelmed. And also, I feel like I need to get to the bottom of this for my sake and for my bees' sake, and hopefully to help others as well. And I'm hoping that what I'm doing will get better and that it'll encourage other people to get better as well. I might not be able to do much, but maybe all together we can do something great. Nick says, why will we lose Aprivar? Is it not killing enough? A lot of people, more and more, are finding that it's not working for them. Some people are saying that it's great, but Bob Benny, who spends well over $10,000 a year in past years on Aprivar, has stopped using it because his tests are not showing that it's giving him the kill that it needs to. I found the same thing out last year. I'd used it in the past. Another guy I know that keeps 400 colonies said the same thing. There have been people that I've talked to that have told me that Aprivar has changed the way they impregnate the plastic. That leads me to think that it's not so much a mite resistance issue. Maybe it's both. But I've been told that the delivery's changed and how it's killing mites is not the same. Why would they change it? I have no clue. Is this proven? I can't prove anything. But more and more beekeepers every day are saying that they did an alcohol wash beforehand, did the whole round of Aprivar, and then find at the end of it they had as many mites or more than when they started. That's not the Aprivar of old. Aprivar used to, you dropped those suckers in, you came back, and the mite loads were dropped significantly. It was one of the best products on the market. Some people still say it's good, but it's basically the moral of the story is don't trust any of them. Oh boy. So Michael says 500 signed up. Frankly, Kamon and Laurel and Bob Benny and Ian Stepler had created a practical works movement. Well, we're a small part of it. At least Laurel and I, but we are glad to be a part of it. And we are hearing from people every day through email and the letters that we receive that they're having more success. How it went for me when I started making the transition myself from a bee haver to a beekeeper is when I started listening to Michael Palmer and Randy Oliver several years ago, and I was having no consistency at all. I have some great colonies. I'm like, wow, why are these so good? I wish all my colonies were like that. And then I'd have some over here that were like, okay. And there's some that were just crashing. What's going on here? And then I'd lose a bunch during the winter and have to buy bees half the time. And as I started making that transitional switch, every year things got better, more profitable, more honey production, better bees. It's more enjoyable when the bees are healthy, that's for sure. And the bees, I'm sure, appreciate it too. And but we're getting messages every day from people that they're having more success. And there's no reason not to have success right now. The information is there. People have just got to get it and absorb it and be able to implement it. Okay, thank you. What was that, 200 and, or was that, no, that was like 300 gallons of syrup? And you're making dinner too. Man, I am so lucky, so blessed. Well, you've been hanging around me too much, getting a little arrogant, aren't you? Oh, goodness. Uh, I, I wish she'd get on the screen more. She's pretty shy. Zach Heinzelman, foundationalist. Zach, if we live to be 90 years old and still keep bees, that you might start getting Alzheimer's, but that will be one thing I don't think you'll forget. I tried foundationalist for like a year. I think I drew 1,000 something combs, or maybe 1,500. It was a lot. It was terrible. I'm still getting rid of those things. And Zach was like, I don't know about that. Every blind hog will find an acorn every now and then. Get out of this, Rib. Laurel's picking on me, everybody. Yeah, with any pesticide rotation is key to prevent resistance. There needs to be more affordable options. $3 to $6 a hive is not affordable and frankly way overpriced. Well, goodness, current pest control, some of them are more than $6 a hive. And honestly, a lot of them, because one treatment's not good enough for one round, you have to do it again in places in the South if you want a really thriving colony. So, I'd say right now, on average, to treat a colony good for me, if I'm using Aprivar and Thymol, we're probably looking at $12 to $15 between the oxalic acid treatments and everything that we do. $15 a hive, I'd say. It's worth it, but it needs to be less than that. It's expensive. Let's see here. Hey, Kamon, I have 2 hives I believe are pollen bound, 5 to 6 frames of pollen, have not fed pollen patty. Could this be a queen issue? It could be a queen issue. Usually, when the queens are either slow or there was a change in a queen, maybe they don't have a queen. But if they lost a queen for a while and they went through a supersedure, queen comes back. If there is a heavy pollen time of the year, they'll just collect it and pack it away, and then they can become pollen bound. It's a frustrating situation to be in. That's why combs are king. It just helps you out so much. If you have some hives that you can give those combs to and swap some out, that would be nice. But it's when your combs get plugged up with honey or pollen, especially pollen, it's hard to get out. At least with sugar syrup or honey, you can fling it out and use sugar syrup to feed and honey to keep. But with bee bread in there, it's a big problem. In some parts of the world, like in Hawaii, where Zach's from, where everything's super easy and they just half of the week lay back on the beach drinking pina coladas while their bees do all the work. They actually get too much pollen in some locations. They actually have devices made to stick the combs down in there, get that water in there, and soften up the bee bread so they can get it out of the combs and reuse the combs. Is that not crazy? We're in like dearths, and they're like, doggone all this pollen in our hives. Let's see here. Lexington. Hey, John Hill. Glad to see you on again. Any thoughts on Hogs half combs? James, I've never used them. I think that they're pretty cool. I will say, if I was going to use a system for making comb honey, I would go that route over the Ross rounds, hands down. I have buddies who use the Hogs half combs with good success. You can use Ross rounds, but they're a lot trickier and more finicky, and a lot of people sell them shortly after they buy them. I've seen that a lot over the years. Hey, Larry Lee's Bees, looking forward to seeing you at the conference. Great chat. Oh, great chat tonight. Thank you. Also seeing a similar statement with the OA sponge. Mites are not dropping, but remaining constant. Interesting information out there right now with Bob and the rest. Thanks for all you do. Well, we've got to keep figuring things out, that's for sure. And the more people we can get to tackle the same ideas from different locations, the better off that we are. It takes so much experimenting to figure things out, but it's important. And honestly, like our inventors corner at the conference, that's what we're hoping to encourage long term, that beekeepers are going to say, okay, I'd like to have a product that I invent for beekeepers that'd be helpful, but I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to get it to market or anything like that, or be able to sell enough of them. Well, I'm here to tell you, if it's a good product that's helpful to beekeepers, we'll get the information out. That's what we're all about. I think long term we're going to see a lot of stuff at our conference that are new products coming to it. Benjamin's asking, what conference are you talking about? Our Hive Life conference in 2022, January 7th and 8th. It's going to be all kinds of stuff there. Bob Benny, Ian Stepler, a lot of other good speakers. I'll be there. Several hundred beekeepers will be there. We have plenty of room to space out if necessary. We'll see how the climate is of things at that time, but it should be great, just like the last one was. And we're going to have a whole set of tables where you can bring your adaptions on things or innovations. This year, no competition, but 2023, the goal is to have more people coming, more people bring new stuff or cool adaptions on stuff that's already been created that makes it better, more useful to beekeepers and helpful. And we are going to have a voting system where everyone that attends can vote and decide which product they think is the most useful. And right now I'm thinking that the reward that I would give for that, as far as my end, I'm hoping to get some vendors to kind of chip in for some cool stuff too. But for first place would be a free trip to the next, and also to have your product get a premiere video done on it and get thousands of views for the new product. All right, let's see here. Getting back. Talk about different breeds of bees. Well, I don't know everything there is to know about bee breeds, only what we have here in the U.S. And what we have is very much like the people that live here, a bunch of mutts. And I mean that in a good way. I like carnies as far as behavioral traits. Now, I'm excited because right now I have my first ever A-eyed queen. It's a carny that came from my friend Shabu Raj, who's in also Columbia, Tennessee. A lot of great beekeepers in that area. And this is the first time I've got an AI queen. It's got some of Sue Kobe's, some New World Carnolian genetics in there, but I like carnies for many reasons. They don't like to raise a lot of drones in late summer. I'm trying to hammer mites. I don't want a lot of drones. I'm not trying to raise a lot of queens late in summer. I want fewer drones. That makes it easier for me to control the mites. I like carnies because they can serve on their resources better. I like it because they overwinter it with smaller clusters. It doesn't mean that they will always have a really small cluster, but they can do better with less, I feel like. I also I like their tendency to go broodless in winter. The Italians are bad about that here in Tennessee. A lot of beekeeping, unfortunately, comes down to mite control, and I feel like carnies give me an advantage over Italians when it comes to mite controls. Italians are really good if you're wanting to produce a lot of bees, you're wanting to raise more queens, if you're wanting to get more bees, Italians is the way to go. I feel like they are more aggressive when it comes to robbing tendencies over carnies. Now, when it comes to Caucasians, I don't really know hardly anything about them. I've never had any good Caucasians. Bob got some A-eyed queens from Shabu Raj that are heavily Caucasian, and Bob's trying those out. I think he got 3 breeder queens, and Bob had also got some Caucasians from a different source too. So I think Bob's kind of mixing those in, try to get some genetic diversity. I'm interested to see what Bob does with those, and I'm hoping to try some in the future because just like any other beekeeper, I like to try new things. But I'm excited to graft from that AI queen in the spring. because I like to toy with different types of carnies, and I want to keep those strong carny genetics. The Michael Palmer carnies that I got this year look really good, and the carnies we've been raising for years also do a great job for us. Will the Acorn Company have some Acorn Foundation at the conference? Acorn themselves will not be there as far as I know. However, there are some vendors that do sell Acorn that will be there. And honestly, I think that you'll probably find that there will be some really good foundation prices from Premier Foundation, who's going to have a significant drop on their foundation, they've told me. And also, there's going to be some companies like Man Lake who will have their right cell foundation with frames and foundations loaded. Oh yeah, Zach, you need to let me know how that AI is going on those Cordovan queens, and I'll try some out. I'll have a bee yard of try out some. It's been a while since I've had any queens like that. Yeah, Jeff at Premier is awesome. Well, and Italians just eat through so much food too. I have to put more food on it during wintertime to keep them happy and satisfied. Hey Hayden, honey, so you have a 50% Caucasian queen. What do you think about him? All right, getting back to some of these down in here. Noah Gaynor says, I got some Premier Foundation this year with the pretty heavy wax, the heavy wax, best money I've ever spent. There was a big difference in performance between my right cell single wax and the single wax Premier Foundation. I was impressed. And the thing is, they've been sitting in my open shed for months, and they still smell. I can still smell the wax on them. It's good stuff. But it's going to be a lot cheaper at our conference because they're going to be bringing pallets of it in. So we're all going to benefit from the bulk pricing. If I were to take a video or picture of my bees, would you be able to tell me what breed of bees I have? I wouldn't be able to. Africanized bees and European bees look very similar, and there are some carnies that actually can have quite a bit of yellowish look to them in the United States. Now, in other countries, they're more particular about color, but when I say carnies, it's really not so much about coloration. It's not solid black or tiger striped or anything like that. It's more about behavioral traits. Do I use drone combs? Only when I'm trying to raise drones on purpose, like if I'm raising a bunch of queens. Let's see here. Hey, Castle Hives. Yeah, good to see you on here. Unfortunately, the conference that I was going to be speaking at here in Tennessee canceled. They were having some other issues. I think they used the coronavirus actually as a scapegoat. Someone will disagree with me. I'm sure that was a contributing factor, but there were some other things going on as well. And they decided to postpone it to March, so I won't be there in October. I will be in Iowa, though, speaking at the Iowa Honey Producers Association, and Bob will also be a speaker there with me as well. And there's going to be several of you that I know that are already going to be there, so it's going to be fun to see some of you there and at our conference in January. It's going to be a lot of fun during that period. Okay. Let's see, where am I? Any opinion on Russians? Okay. Well, I've only used them a little bit. They have some merits, but you have to treat them very differently than a Carney or an Italian. They're a little bit more thrifty than a Italian and a Carney, but they also seem to want to swarm a little bit more aggressively. So you have to watch that. There's manipulations that you can do. The beekeepers that have them seem to love them. Now, if you just get a package with the Russian hybrid, that's not a real Russian. At least I don't think so. If you're wanting real Russian type bees, then you need to go through the Russian breeder program and do it the right way. That's my opinion on it. They can tend to be a little bit more aggressive. Some people say they aren't that bad. I don't have a ton of experience with them, but I do think that to each their own, and I do like variety. It makes it fun. But mean bees don't belong in any of my bee yards. I draw the line at mean bees. let's see here. Ooh, way down there. What's your favorite method of storing frames after extraction? Pull them off and make sure that there's no honey left in them, no bee bread, nothing, and make sure that there's some air movement, just a little bit through there. Don't close them up tight and walk away. That works really good for me. Protect them from mice. Now, if that's what I do, that's what Mr. Ed does, that's what a lot of beekeepers do, that's what Kent Williams does. Some people go ahead and use the Paramoth product. If you're unsure or want to be extra safe, use the Paramoth product. Some people don't like to use it. I'd say better safe than sorry if you're unsure, but I have no problem just storing them out in the open as long as they are allow a little airflow and don't have anything in them, just nothing but wax. Wax moths don't eat wax. There's not enough nutrition in wax. They eat bee bread and a tiny bit of honey. Okay. Thanks, Laurel. Let's see here. All right, so right now, this is who we're looking at have at the conference. Maxent Dillers, Superior Polystyrene Hives, Apame, Hilco, Dogwood Ridge, Bee Supply. We have a professional beekeeper that's going in with me and a couple other guys, and we're going to have blocks of beeswax available for anyone who wants to buy beeswax that's natural and make either candles out of it or lip balms, or if you need it to wax some old foundation you have. So there will be blocks of beeswax available at a reasonable price, which will be really cool. And so looks like possibly Honeybee, Tennessee, which is the thing here locally that produces a lot of information for beekeepers, and also helps if you see the Tennessee license plates that have honeycombs and stuff on them, that's them. The Hive Butler will be here offering discounts. Kelly's, of course, Dadant, Man Lake, all those guys. Strong Microbials, Blue Sky Bee Supply, Premier Foundation, Nature Image Farms that produces the buckets and the bucket plugs. If you're needing bucket plugs or anything to cut your own and make your own, he's going to have all that stuff there. That'll be nice. The Easy Loader, the guy that makes that nice machine for Ian to, or sells the Easy Loaders that Ian uses to move his hives, he's going to bring one to the conference. So I'm wondering if Ian will hook it up, me to a harness, and just we can mess around with that and have a good time. And trying to get Miller Bee Supply, Better Bee. We're going to have Horizontal Bees, the guy that made the horizontal hive that I have. And we're going to have a few other odd things off to the side that I'm not going to mention because they're kind of in the works. But some of these companies that are on the side, like Better Bee, licensed products, we want them there. So if there's anyone that you know of that you'd like to see there, email them and tell them go to the Hive Life Conference. How do you get bee bread out of combs? Not very easily. I don't ever fool with it. You're going to have to freeze those, or better yet, put them in a beehive. Maybe next time I go to Hawaii, I can do a video on how they get bee bread out of combs there. It's a pain in the rear end. Claude Soley, the best pre-waxed frames I ever had were mine. Watched the video by this guy from Tennessee, and they work great. That was one of my earliest videos, too. I really appreciate that, Claude. There's nothing like doing it using your own wax on your own frames. That extra thick wax really makes a difference, and if it's the fresher it is, the more the bees are going to go to it as well. If it dries out over a long period of time, they just don't want to touch it. Oh yeah, Greg with Nature Image Farms got some really cool stuff that he's bringing down. He's got a couple other interesting things that I'm not going to mention on here. Frank's Bees, how much is the beeswax? I don't know. I got to talk to all the guys. We kind of got to agree, but it's definitely going to be. I wouldn't say it's going to be like crazy cheap or anything like that, but it's going to be a fair price if you we're buying from a professional beekeeper that needs to move beeswax, so it's not going to be like 10 or 12 bucks a pound or anything crazy like that. Not that if you sell your wax for that much, that's crazy, but when you have hundreds of pounds, you just got to get it going. Hey Angela, I've never used the beetle baffle before. The beetle baffle you said was worthless in your opinion. Oh, okay. I didn't find beetles in my hive with the entrance guardian. Kamon, do you have any experience with these? I have not used any of those guardian entrances. I know if I put those guardian entrances on my hives in my summer dearth, if I had a really strong, powerful colony in there, they're going to probably abscond on me due to heat loss, unless you have upper ventilation. That's my biggest concern with any of these reduction ideas for summer. If you don't have plenty of ventilation in summer, if you have a screen bottom board, that works. Upper ventilation. But if you live in a really hot area and you reduce the entrance and put these little things in there, you just got to watch it. Just don't overheat your bees. I'm not saying that they can't work, but I've never tried one before. I'm skeptical when it comes to those guardian entrances, though. Maybe someone else on here will chime in on what they thought of them. To be or not to be? Oh, I'm sorry. This was really last minute. We had a crazy day, but I just really felt like talking bees tonight, and I appreciate you coming on. Sorry that I didn't give anybody a heads up. And it's always fun to talk bees. Let's see. Oh, yeah, but really having a strong hive is the best solution for beetles. And then having some traps is really good too. What we really need is a product that the beetles can eat that goes inside their stomachs and then blows them up from the inside. I would love a product like that. It would be humane because it'd be quick. Not something that was a slow explosion. You could open up a lid and just see a beetle go poof, pew. Yeah, plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh my goodness. When do you usually go live? Well, I've never done one on Monday before, but this was a holiday weekend, so I thought that I would. I was busy yesterday and the day before. I was thinking about doing both of those days, but just so busy trying to catch up with all the work right now with the record honey poll that we had this year, keeping up with the experimental yards data, also trying to keep other videos coming for people that aren't as interested in the information on the experimental yard. The conference is taking up a monstrous amount of time. Things are going well. It's taking a lot of time, but it's all good. Will the conference speeches be internet broadcast? I actually just got off the phone with someone last week, and they are planning on being at the conference. They are a professional company out of Nashville, and they are going to film the event. I don't know if any of you have watched the National Honey Show, but we are going to have it filmed. It's going to be a little bit different, though. It's not going to be on YouTube. We'll have a tiny bit on YouTube, but this guy's not cheap. It's not like it's crazy expensive, but we are going to be charging to cover our cost for the CD. But we plan to have every lecture there available. We plan to have some side stuff available. Also, the 1 hour bluegrass show that we have, that is going to be exceptional. These guys are Ricky Skaggs level musicians and above. They're exceptional. And that'll also be on there. So we've got a guy that's going to do that. I didn't get it done last year because I didn't take the time to work on it myself. And so we're going to hire a professional to get it done. So we should have videos available afterwards that will be a very reasonable price. And it'll be a lot of fun. The cool thing about the reason I want it is we did some YouTube filming last year, but Laurel didn't have time to manage the camera. I didn't have time to manage the camera. We didn't have time to zoom in and out. We didn't have the best audio because we really needed a mic up in there, and it just wasn't the quality that we wanted to share with everybody. We want great quality. And as long as the speakers are okay with us sharing it, we will do that. So far, everybody's agreed to it. So, Randy the Dirt Rooster is here. We'll be selling pirated copies on our website. Come on, Randy. I know we're. Well, Mr. Ed will tell me where you live. I think he'll take my side on this one. We're looking forward to the Dirt Rooster being there, and Mr. Ed and Frederick Dunn and all those guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, Castle Hives, if you want to bring your own camera and film it, that is fine. As far as the lectures go, you can film it for yourself. Don't share it with anybody else. I mean, if you want to show like your buddy at the bee club, that's one thing. But I appreciate if nobody put it on YouTube. But as far as if you want to take videos of like yourself being at the conference and little snippets of speakers and little bits here and there, I'm sure that's totally fine. You and I will talk about it when the time gets closer. Dr. Leo will not be there. I'm sure he'll be at a conference somewhere, but he won't be at our conference. Let's see. And right now, a lot of changes are being made on how we're structuring this. Right now, we focused on guys and speakers who are nice to be around, but are also extremely good at what they do. The information that they share is something that you, as a hobbyist, you can take and get you to that sustainable level a lot faster. And if you're looking to keep a sideline business or a professional business, these are the guys you want to talk to. They're that good. However, I'm hoping in the future to keep, that's our core. That'll never change. We're going to keep hunting down beekeepers like that and keeping that. That's the core. But we're going to have 2 rooms, if at all possible, in 2023, so we can have multiple researchers that are making significant strides in our industry, making positive change. The cream of the crop, if at all possible. We're also going to try to find some beekeepers that are also more in the sideline arena, where I would say 100 colonies and down, especially that 20 to 50 colony range, that are really exceptional and elite sideline beekeepers that have honey for their customers every year. Their bees are alive, they're very sustainable, and they're good at what they do. I'd like to have some of those speakers. I feel like that would be really helpful for some beekeepers that want to get some information from operations that aren't like 2,000 colonies like Ian and Bob and stuff like that. And we're also, when Laurel came in here, opened up the door, little bird came over and whispered in my ear. It's more like a hawk. Am I in trouble? Well, so much for the dinner, guys. But seriously, though, we're looking for some women. I've been looking for a while that are willing to speak. I'm thinking we might get Natalie up there and do a lecture or something like that. Yeah, careful, Kamon, that's right. A giggling hawk, they're the most dangerous type because before you realize it, you're too close. And then bam, it's too late. There's no escape. Anyways, so moving onward. Oh boy. Can you make it available on your YouTube? The Dominican Beekeeper, can you make it available on your YouTube channel after you make a profit? You probably won't, but we can. We probably can make it online to where you can get an online version or something like that. It's gonna be reasonable. It's not gonna be out of touch or anything like that. Let's see here. But yeah, we're gonna have multiple speakers. Hey, Shane Williams, what about the Honeystead gal? I don't really know her personally. What I'm looking for in a female speaker is someone who's really good at sustainable beekeeping. I'm sure many of you all have heard of Lori out on the West Coast. She raises queens. She's a really great beekeeper. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a YouTube channel that she doesn't frequent. I'm not sure she's even interested in speaking. That's what's tricky about this is there are many people out there that are good at what they do, but most of them don't want to speak. And if I could get Lori out here, I think she would do a wonderful job. She's extremely good beekeeper. And so I want someone who's going to be able to actually help beekeepers out, and also they've got to be good speakers. Doesn't matter how much you know if you can't communicate it very well. Let's see. And one thing I'm looking into is getting some speakers that can talk about the Purdue mite ankle biter queens and also some VSH, because I would like to learn more as well about mite resistance when it comes to bees. Hey, Yvonne, thanks for coming on. Thanks for she was on almost the whole time, I think. Get Laurel to speak. Hey, I would pay $1,000 to get Laurel to do a speech. I would give $5,000. I would. I don't really have it to spare, but I'd find it. I would love that. She doesn't want to, and when Laurel doesn't want to do something, it typically doesn't happen. All right. We can put Mr. Ed in a dress. What in the world are you trying to do? The building is going to blow apart. WW Outdoors, I have 2 hawks, better be careful. Well, Laurel almost completed her falconry license. She's really knowledgeable about birds of prey and different things like that. Well, and I think you would be surprised how many of the guys that I talk to or people that I talk to that you would not think struggle with speaking that actually do. It's very common. It's very normal. To not feel that pressure is actually weird. And I'm one of those few people. I think it was though I was around a bunch of people in my family who were already kind of like that, and so my household was always a battle of wits. It wasn't ugly or anything, but we went back and forth constantly, and I think that helped a lot. My parents got me out and involved in a lot of things. I always did the MC work for our bluegrass band back in the day. It is mostly an acquired skill, castle hives, and it's something that you have to work on. It's something I still need to work on. Okay, so WW Outdoors has some videos on some hawks, huh? Get the wives to do a round table, wives of beekeepers. That actually would be, I mean, I'm totally paying for that right there. That'd be awesome. All right, Grace, I didn't see your question above. I can only observe a handful of questions at a time. I can see about, I think, 8. Queen replacement, though. Scrolling up, but maybe it was way up there. My wife got stung once and quit. The end. Well, yeah, introvert and extrovert pairs do work pretty good. I got to tell you, Laurel's personality and how her thought process are very different from mine. We like the same things, but how we go about it and process it is so different. And let me tell you, it has been the most important thing that I ever did when I married Laurel, because she's kept me from my weaknesses so often. But a lot of the beekeepers, yeah, are afraid of getting up in front of crowds and goof and messing up. And I was actually talking to a beekeeper the other day that I think has a lot of potential. And I was telling that beekeeper, I mean, we all go through it. Basically, it's just like anything else in life with beekeeping. As you get into the hobby, you make mistakes. You lose colonies. You let a queen fly out of a cage, you don't treat maybe enough, or maybe you use the wrong treatment at the wrong time, whatever. There are so many learning curves in the early stages of beekeeping. Speaking really is no different. If you don't put your foot in your mouth on a frequent basis when you start out, then you're not speaking, and it's just part of it. It's embarrassing, to be quite honest, but it's just part of the learning curves of speaking. Let's see. I got stung once and fell in love. Well, there you go. You know, it was really weird when I first started this YouTube channel. I had a terrible time with the camera talking, I would have rather talked to a crowd of 1,000 people than talk to this camera. It was it was weird. And when you first put yourself out there, and for those of you who have smaller YouTube channels that are getting going, keep it up. When we started out, it was really hard, because especially back in those days when you have like 100 subscribers, 200 subscribers, and someone gets on there and bludgeons you with "you're a moron, you're terrible," and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes you do have an off day. I definitely do, and it really hits you hard. It's a little bit easier when you have a bigger following, and you still actually you get more of those. I get those daily. However, I also have a lot of you that encourage me to keep doing videos and to keep improving and get better. And that's really the reason we have made it this far, is because of men and women like you who have encouraged us to stay the course. So thank you very much for all that you all have done to make this possible. Yeah, sideline operations are a lot of work, especially with a full-time job. It's a or any job for that matter. Well, and that's one of the advantages that I have and Bob has, is that we have people that are able to hold our camera. It makes it a lot easier. It's not always easy though. If you only knew how many times Laurel laughed at me that you all don't even hear it, it can sometimes just crush your soul. Tell Ian to bring Carrie. Well, if she'll come, that'd be great. She probably won't speak either. She doesn't strike me as the type that's going to be able to sit there at the round table, and her and Laurel and Carrie, I don't think, and Sandy, I don't think as much is going to happen. Yeah, Randy's wife is great. I've heard her talk over the phone a few times, with me, and when Randy needs help. Randy's kind of like me. Without his wife, he's not much, and he'll admit that. Any country boy that knows anything knows that. Where, when, and how much for your bee conference? So Ripple Effect is asking this. Now, before I get to that, thanks for your donation. But you've had so many different names: Merry Christmas 2.0, Ripple Effect, all this kind of stuff. Why all the name changes? It's not that there's anything wrong with it. It just, I can't hardly keep track. It's hard as it is, man. So the conference will be in Sevierville, Tennessee, January 7th and 8th, and it is $180 to sign up. I've gotten a little bit of, I've gotten a few people say that's too much. If they really knew what it took to put this on, they'd probably be saying that's not enough. And some people have said that to me as well. However, it's just Laurel and I, so this year we're trying to keep it simple and to keep it interesting. Well, you're definitely keeping it interesting, Ripple Effect. But it takes a lot to put these conferences on. I've already got plans for 2023 that should make it easier, for price-wise. It's not that there's going to be more options price-wise, and we're also going to get more help. I already have some people helping me. For what we're offering, $180 is fair. I think by the time we get to the conference and people see the vendors, the discounts that they're going to have, I already know a lot of stuff that I'm not allowed to share right now. And I'm also wanting to put it together on paper form and double confirm a lot of this stuff, but it's going to be worth it. The speakers alone are worth it, but all the extras are going to be, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be entertaining. It's not going to be boring like a lot of conferences are. And to boot, there's going to be a lot of great deals and good products. However, we're looking in 2023. We've got some help now, starting to work at the next conference. We're going to try to really make it more affordable for kids, and looking into different options there, and also some grant programs for young kids, probably like 16 and under or something like that. But probably 10 to 16 or something like that. And so we're looking at a lot of different options. And trying to get some different ideas. We're always open to suggestions. Beekeepers have the best ideas, in my opinion. But I think $180 is fair. And next year we're going to have more to offer as well. But I think, we have had such great turnaround. The people that came last year, by and large, are all coming back again this year. If that doesn't speak volumes, I don't know what does. And It's not just me. I'm just the one that kind of helps Laurel put it together. But we're fortunate that we've got friends like Bob and Ian and Rick Sutton and Randy the Dirt Rooster and Frederick Dunn, I mean, and Mr. Ed, who's now a new friend, and a lot of these other guys that are there. I'm very fortunate to have such good friends. Bees will not take sugar water. Do you know why? Well, if there's a strong flow going on, that may affect it. But another reason they might not be taking it is because the colony might be weak. Weak colonies sometimes won't take sugar syrup very good. Maybe they're sickly, viruses, something like that. Laurel just posted again the conference information. We are well over 80% capacity. We actually met our goal, and now we are closing in to fill it up the rest of the way, and we are less than a month, I believe, into it. So there's still 118 days or something like that. So I am pretty confident that it will be slammed. Registration will be slammed full. Granted, we have a building that will be able to hold double our capacity. So we won't have to worry about canceling on anybody. Worst case scenario. Randy Blaylock, if we all knew how much beekeeping was going to cost, we might not have started anyways. You're right. You're right. It is honestly probably cheaper if you do it the wrong way, to just buy honey. However, I think things are starting to change and things are looking up. I think that we can make better improvements and better strides. There's going to be some good pricing on things there that's going to help a little bit, and I think it's going to get better. I think we're going to see more sustainable beekeepers. Maybe not beekeepers that are lining their pockets with money, but at least beekeepers that are breaking even, worst case scenario. And that in of itself is a great thing. Hey, Jason, talking about the TAPE grant, honestly, I kind of like it. And the reason I say that is the way I look at things, programs like this state program where they give money to beekeepers, I don't, first of all, I don't believe in a lot of state programs. Honestly, they're taking our tax dollars and most of the time blowing it. If the government's good at one thing, besides lying, it's blowing our money. But the state of Tennessee, this is one program that they have that I feel like actually has done a pretty good bit of stuff. According to them, for every dollar that they've invested, they've received almost double that in encouraging the economy of the state of Tennessee. But I feel like that money should be going to beekeepers that can prove that they are going to pay taxes and make money. We need to get our beekeeping economy better. If that money is going to be used, it needs to be used in places that is going to, like, for instance, if I use that grant, which I actually have in the past, then I go to my hardware store and I buy plywood for my lids. I buy all my screws from there. I buy pressure treated boards for stands, all kinds of stuff. And that's a local hardware store supporting local jobs. I bought my trailer that was made in Tennessee. I do a lot of different things like that. So from a business standpoint, I actually agree with him on that. However, I think that you'll be past that point quickly if you stick to the Great Queens, Dead Mites, and good nutrition. And it's something to definitely look into if you're at that level. But honestly, I would rather the government stop giving us all these free gifts of money and just let us keep it. Because I feel like I am better qualified to spend my money than they are at spending my money. Let's see here. Oh, goodness. How do you know your bees are winter bees and how long will they live? Winter bees will live a long time. They'll survive Canadian winters, which I don't know how long all winters are up there, but I have a buddy in Alaska who overwinters bees in Alaska in Apame hives there, and some polystyrene ones up there as well. That's a long winter up there. It's like I don't know how long it is, but it's long, and they'll survive up there. So winter bees that are healthy, probably what, I don't know, 6, 7 months. They got to get some cleansing flights. That's the main thing. Hopefully, get some cleansing flights. It's more crucial to have no pest problems in long winter areas like that. But the way that you know that you're getting winter bees, I don't know what the end of your season is, but for me, I see winter bees late September at the earliest, more October. We need to focus right now on getting as many bees as possible. These won't be winter bees, but the bigger they are and colony strength, the more winter bees they'll produce during that crucial period. So just keep that in mind. Keep them healthy before winter bees, and they should be fine. Now, my Alaskan friend does not have small hive beetles, but he does have wax moths, and they do have varroa mites. Let's see here. Hey, thanks so much, guys, for the donations. Jason Hughes, I failed to mention you earlier. I appreciate you very much. And WW Outdoors, thanks for coming on again. So you have some videos on raptors, do you? Or rather, hawks. I'll have to check those out. Laurel probably has already. And thank you, Ideal Honeybees. I haven't seen you on here before, but thanks for coming on. And thank you so much for supporting us tonight. Let's see. Yep. Always get a couple of spammers in here, disgusting idiots. But they need some honeybees in their life. That would fix them right up. Randy, there's a donate button at the bottom. I think it shows like a cash sign, but honestly, you can also go to our PayPal, or there's other ways as well. You can always send us letters with questions to our P.O. Box at P.O. Box 332. Let me just type that in. Laurel says dinner has long been done, and I am late. But she knows I'm like this. So P.O. Box 332, Gainsboro, Tennessee, a.k.a. God's Garden, 38562. All right, so there's the P.O. Box. That's where people are sending registration for the Hive Life Conference as well. Hey, Funny Bugs and Bees and Woodworks. Yeah, if you want to send an email about that to the Hive Life Conference, Hive Life Conference at gmail.com. I can't say anything now. Hey, Grace, we're looking forward to seeing you there at the conference. But we're going to have grants for Hive grants for kids in the future, and we're also planning on having grants for kids to come to the conference for nothing as well. Which we'll be doing ourselves on those grants. Also, we're going to have lower prices for kids in the future. Our goal long term is to have more kids at our conference than any other conference. That's where we're really going to see progress long term, is getting those young kids involved. But hey, guys and gals, I appreciate you being involved and supporting the future of beekeeping. I'm looking forward to seeing so many of you. Yes, Funny Bugs and Bees, put hivelifeconference@gmail.com. That is the email address for any information related to the conference. And we are excited about the future of beekeeping. It's time to change the narrative. Less bee deaths, more sustainability, more honey in stores, more successful, more everything. Bees affect everything, so the better they do, the better we all do. Thanks so much for coming on tonight. The conference is in Sevierville, Tennessee. It's going to be at the foothills of the Smoky Mountains, so if your spouse isn't into beekeeping, you can talk him or her into it by saying, hey, honey, see that beekeeping word right there? It's very useful. Let's go to the Smokies. You'll love it. No, hey, by the way, there's a beekeeping conference there. It just so happens while you're doing your stuff, I can do the conference, all that kind of thing. Anyways, thanks so much for coming on. I'll try to let you know before I do the next live chat. It'll probably be 2, maybe 3 weekends from now. We'll see you then. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Gotta go eat some dinner.